Hello and welcome everyone to another live session at the Reactors. My name is Rav and I'm the program manager at Reactor London. Before we get into the session, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We're all here to learn, so please be respectful of other people's views and understanding of differences, and please be kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat will be open throughout and we do encourage you all to participate. Please note that this session will be recorded and will be available to view on our Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. Today is another session of the SaaS Academy Tech Track. This is a joint program brought to you by Microsoft Western Europe, Microsoft United Kingdom, and the Microsoft Reactor. SaaS Academy was inspired by our CEO's vision that every company will eventually become a software company. And here is a quick video to explain what SaaS Academy is about.
Did you know that every business will eventually become a software business? Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella not only made that prediction, but also continues to lead Microsoft to SaaSify its portfolio. With SaaS solutions, you can grow your business and make even sophisticated enterprise applications like ERP and CRM affordable if you lack the resources to buy, deploy, and manage your infrastructure and software. So, how to get started with SaaS? That's why we created the Microsoft SaaS Academy. It is your chance to deep dive into the latest Microsoft technologies and learn more about the future of software as a service from Microsoft experts, partners, and customers. Our SaaS Academy was designed with a business track and a tech track to provide companies like yours with the SaaS knowledge that fulfills their needs. Our business track covers the SaaS fundamentals, whether you are a cloud-native company or a traditional software provider, while the tech track addresses technical aspects of building a SaaS solution, including SaaS architecture, DevOps, and sustainable software engineering. You can get started with SaaS in the same time it would take you to build a Microsoft PowerPoint about it. Ready to accelerate your journey to SaaS? Don't miss our upcoming webinars and join the Microsoft SaaS Academy now.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm now going to invite Doreen, who will introduce the session.
Thank you very much, Rav. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. For those of you who can't see me, I'm a brunette woman wearing a black top and my hair is pulled back. Today's SaaS Academy webinar is dedicated to accessible technology. There are over 1 billion people worldwide who live with a disability. That's more than 50% of our global population. And since the Microsoft mission is to empower every person on the planet to achieve more, we are living our mission when we focus on making our software and services accessible to all. Such an important work we can't do alone, and we need our partners and customers to join forces with us in making this world more inclusive. Technology could be the ultimate equalizer, and using it as a trusty ally that is available for all people with different needs is the main topic of today's session. I am delighted to have Dona Sarkar here with us today, who is leading our accessibility tech strategy. And today she will be talking about how to build accessible SaaS application. So without further ado, Dona, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. And thank you so much for having me here with you today for SaaS Academy. Everything that Doreen and Rav say is absolutely true. At some point, every company is going to have to become a tech company in some way or another. And there's no better time than now to think about how you're going to do that. And not just the products you build for your customers, but the tools and equipment, products, internal tools, whatever, that you use in-house. We're going to have a customer base that is really different compared to what we have right now. So the way we can kind of future-proof is to be very proactive in how we think about building products, services, et cetera, et cetera. Today, I'm going to walk you through a formula, let's say, that I've been using within my team and how I coach organizations within Microsoft and all around the world. So I'm just going to share my screen here, and I am going to share with you a set of slides, but it's going to be a lot of talking through the content. So don't worry about it if you cannot see the slides right now. Many of the audiences that I present to are either low vision or blind. So I spend a lot of time talking through slides rather than assuming that you can see them. On the screen, there's a slide up that has a picture of Naomi Osaka, Elon Musk, who's in the news quite a bit, Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, Britney Spears, and Richard Branson. And the title is Say the Word. So what I want to talk about today is that every company has an ambition. And their main ambition is that they want to help lots of people. They want to make a big impact. And of course, they want to make money, right? Because ultimately, if you're running an organization, if you don't have money, you're not going to run that organization for very long. And here's the thing. There is a totally untalked about secret way to do this. And that is designing for disability. And a lot of people hand wave at this and say, I don't know how that's going to lead to money. So hear me out on this one. Designing for disability. Okay. So first of all, let's just get one thing out of the way, which is disability is not a bad word. A lot of people get really stressed out about this word disability. Then they come up with all kinds of weird terms for it. But people with disabilities know they have a disability. It's not a secret. So there are more people with disabilities in the world than you think also. Everyone I mentioned in the previous slide, again here, they are all people with disabilities. Whether it's a mental health thing, a neurodiversity thing, or a physical disability, these are all folks who live with a disability. So let's just talk through some other examples. On the screen is Ann Taylor. Ann is blind. She has a disability. She's on my team. And in this photo, she is showing Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, how to use a technology called Seeing AI. Seeing AI is an app that works on iPhone where you hold it up and the phone sees something and it describes to you what it's seeing. So it would say in this case, Asian woman wearing purple shirt. That's how Seeing AI works. If you haven't tried Seeing AI, I would give it a shot. It's pretty cool. The next one is Jessica Refuse. She uses a wheelchair. She has a disability. Both of these folks are on my team. And if you call them something that is not like, hey, you're a person with a disability, they'll raise an eyebrow at you like, what do you mean? That's what I am. It's like saying, you're a brunette or you're blonde. It's not insulting. It's just a fact. Third one is Jenny Leigh Fleury, who is deaf, and she has a disability. She is the CAO, Chief Accessibility Officer of Microsoft. Right now, you're hearing a lot of noise and commotion behind me because I'm actually in studio for our Ability Summit, which is our big summit devoted to accessibility. It's a 2-day thing, lots and lots of content, ginormous audience, really, really important focus for Microsoft. And I'm enjoying seeing a lot of our customers tuning in this year. Then the fourth person is me. I have dyslexia. I have a disability. I have zero issue with anyone calling it that. People are really afraid of the word. People say we don't say disabled, we say passengers with functional diversity. It just, in jest, but just use the word. It's okay. People with disabilities are all around you, by the way. There are more people than we think. Right now, the statistic is 1 in 8 people. It's something. It's like 1 billion people, but I actually think it's much more than that. And I'll talk to you about why. Disability itself is a mismatch between someone's ability and the way the environment is set up. It's a human-made problem. Like, for example, in this photo, this was a fashion show I went to a few months ago. You're seeing a model in a wheelchair. She's wearing a beautiful pink top, and there's a bunch of models who are following her who are not in wheelchairs. This fashion show had set up this ramp that the models all walk down, and they made it really wide so the wheelchair can spin. But the thing they forgot was a ramp to get up onto the runway. So this model actually couldn't get onto the stage. So they all decided to use the room as the stage rather than using the actual runway. So what made this building inaccessible? Was it the wheelchair or was it the lack of the ramp? It was the lack of the ramp. So your products are not inaccessible because of people with disabilities. Your products are inaccessible because your products are inaccessible. So let's just talk through the range of people with disabilities. When we think about this, we think like, visual folks who are low vision or blind. But color blindness is also a big thing. If there's any men watching this, 1 in 12 of you have color blindness. Many of the people in the studio we work with are colorblind. Men learn this much later in life, sometimes when they're doing like a color filter test or something like that. Hearing is a big one that's been pretty important lately because more and more people are becoming hard of hearing. They're losing their hearing either in one ear or the other because of aging, because of some sort of an incident, because they worked in a factory, lots of reasons. And then, of course, there's people who are deaf, like born deaf. I'm going to skip cognitive for a second and go to speech. When we think of speech, we think someone who might have a speech impediment. Some people call it a stutter, or they speak through technology, as in they don't speak at all. Then there's mobility, folks like my colleague Jessica, who uses a wheelchair, but also anyone who has had to use a cane or a crutch because they broke a knee. Right now, I have a mobility disability because I have arthritis in my knees. So whenever there's a ramp or stairs, I always take the ramp. So the two big areas that I'd like to really talk about are cognitive and neural. Cognitive, also called neurodiversity, is ADHD, dyslexia, autism. And neural are things like depression, including seasonal depression, bipolar, anxiety, and PTSD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and many other things. Now, cognitive and neural affect way more people than we think. For example, how many people have not struggled with some sort of a mental health thing through the pandemic? I can count exactly 0, right? Either you or someone you care about deeply. And it's also not as defined as the other factors. Like, it's pretty hard to build something and say, will this work for people with ADHD? Like, it's pretty challenging. That is the thing that we're working on right now. One of the things that we're really focusing on here at Microsoft are a set of guidelines for neurodiversity and for mental health and applying them to product, because we're realizing that if we are having trouble defining how to do this within our products, then probably our customers are as well. And keep in mind that a lot of things fall into this category, like seasonal depression, social anxiety, these sorts of things that many, many, many people around you probably deal with, and many people in your workplace. So I actually believe that 1 in 2 people are currently impacted by disability, neurodiversity, and mental health. And this image is my colleague Hector Minto, who does not have a disability, but he is got his Lego figure of someone sitting in a wheelchair who does have a disability. So I just want to share with you what my world looks like a little bit. I am dyslexic. That means my world looks like this. On the slide, you see a string of text that may look like gibberish to you. And that's how most things look like on screens. You'll see that I have very few text on my slides, namely because I cannot read them. You know that game where people have the right starting letter and the right ending letter, and they're like, you can read this, even the middle letters are mixed up. That's how my world looks all the time. So I can read what's on the page with a little bit more focus than maybe someone without disabilities. And if it's on a screen, then it gets exponentially worse. So on a paper, it's pretty good. On a screen, it's a little worse. So I tend to use a set of learning tools to read aloud for me. My colleague Dave Dame, he is the director of hardware for Surface. He has a great quote, and I use it all the time, which is, we're all going to be disabled someday, just some of us beat you to it. So you think about people in your life who are going hard of hearing, who have carpal tunnel because all of us have terrible posture, someone who's broken a knee or an ankle, someone who's had to have some sort of an eye surgery. It's going to affect all of us at some point or another. The thing to keep in mind is that there are over $1 trillion of economic power in the hands of people with disabilities. We tend to be incredibly brand loyal. Like, for example, if a company tends to do really well for someone with disabilities, we will tell everybody, like everybody I know. As someone who has dyslexia, I read really well on the Kindle iPhone app. They've got low vision mode, and it makes the background black. It makes the font big and it really like kind of glows the text. I like that mode so much. It really helps me read better. So I've told everybody I know who's dyslexic to use that mode. Really brand loyal, very technical. We're the OG hackers, right? Because we have to make the world work for us. And we're very connected to each other. In this image, you're seeing my colleague, Kelly Ford, who is blind. He's a screen reader user, show me how to build a Microsoft Power App using a screen reader. I didn't know how to do that. I'm a Power App expert. I've done that a lot, but no idea how to build it with a screen reader. He showed me and he showed every single person he knows. So we have learned over the course of the past 25 years that businesses that create accessible products and work environments have 86% higher revenue than businesses that do not. And their net income was nearly double and employee retention is nearly 90%. So it's not just like a good thing to do for the world, it's just good business. Whenever we unleash an accessibility product, we get amazing media coverage. On this screen, you're seeing blog posts and articles about Microsoft's Xbox Adaptive Controller and the Surface Adaptive Kit. Whenever we release one of these, the sales of all of our products go up, even things like Azure, because people are like, whoa, okay, if Microsoft is really invested in accessibility for this hardware stuff, I bet they've thought about that for Azure as well. And we have a lot of people in the company who have accessibility needs, so Azure is probably the right thing. So just that brand recognition really does translate across all of your products and services, so keep that in mind. And I love Xbox's quote around when everyone plays, we all win. And it's really true. The media also love to cover accessibility. Like Tom Warren from The Verge always talks about accessibility whenever we release a thing. He says, and this is not just a Microsoft thing. He said, I love the trend of tech companies focusing on accessibility needs. These Apple Watch features are genuinely life-changing for people. And the potential for tech to improve futures is why I fell in love with technology as a kid. So the watch, you kind of use these gestures and it does navigation of your watch. And then Aaron Huggins says, this is a good example of accessibility features being good for everyone. If this works as shown, I'll definitely use it. And I don't even have any accessibility needs. So it's this thing that if you design for disability, like audiobooks were invented for blind Americans in 1930, but it's a better experience for everyone. Now, many people use audiobooks. I use them. People who tend to commute use them. People who walk on treadmills use them. They're just a cool product, even though they were originally designed for people with disabilities. So many things were designed for people with disabilities that we use every day, like typewriters, SMS, aka texting, and of course the internet. Lots of like origin stories around this. Like for example, the first typewriter was invented because Pellegrino Turri, who's an Italian inventor, he was in a romantic relationship with this countess. And she used to write him beautiful love letters, handwritten. But she started to go blind. So she couldn't write love letters anymore. Pellegrino Turri really wanted to keep receiving his love letters. So he created a device for her where it was like an ink pad on keys. And she just like with raised keys that had the letters on them. So she would press the letter, take the ink pad onto paper. And then he kept getting his letters and the first typewriter was invented. Cool. And both SMS and the internet were invented by people who were deaf or hard of hearing who invented these protocols so they could communicate better with people in their life. So your customers and your employees, honestly, are folks who are going to have different lived experiences. And that's a good thing because the more you can reach people with different lived experiences, the better your products are going to be. Whenever I think about building something, whether it's software, whether it's fashion, I run a fashion line, I don't think about creating for customers. I think about co-creating with, okay? So just bring that into your vocabulary. Do not build for, co-create with every step of the way. I've co-created across 4 industries. I do work in Microsoft. I've worked on lots of products, Windows, HoloLens, Power Platform. Now I oversee 4,000 products and 3,000 internal tools. So all of them, which is awesome and scary. But I also am a published author. I run my own fashion company and I do quite a bit of public speaking. I've co-created across all of these industries and I've learned that the same principles apply for software as they do for like physical product. I launched my fashion company, Prima Donna Studios, in 2019, and we have thousands of powerful tech and business as customers across 13 countries. But when a customer with autism and a customer with an amputation, she had a leg amputation, reached out and wanted me to design something for them. That was a really cool and unique challenge. For the customer with autism, I wound up using a really, really soft natural fabric made of bamboo that wouldn't irritate her skin. That was the big ask. And for my customer with an amputation, I wound up making a pair of pants that had one leg. So she didn't have to, have a legless pair of pants. But these are things that we can do as makers. Like, lots of fashion lines exist, but my ambition is to be the most inclusive fashion line in the world. And when I think about how I work on my fashion line, or I work at Microsoft doing, software for a living, I ask 5 questions daily. Okay. First, who am I building this for and with? And I really focus on bringing in people at the design phase. Some people will test their product with people with disabilities at the end. And that works okay. If you've never factored in people with disabilities, you can do that, because you should factor in people with disabilities at some point. When I think about designing a new product, I think there's like 5 phases, right? Ideation, I have an idea of a product. Second is design, like actually whiteboard, figure out how all the pieces will fit together. Third one is development, actually make the thing. Fourth one is testing. And fifth one is shipping. So definitely your product is probably being used by people with disabilities at some point or another. So shipping, you've got covered. So figure out how to work it back, right? Going from shipping to testing. If you're not testing with people with disabilities, then start doing that. If you're already doing that, then think about bringing them in the development phase. Like, okay, work with me on the code before we write it. Then once you're doing that, then focus on the design phase. Like, before you even start whiteboarding, figure out, okay, how would a person who may just have one arm use this? How would a person who may not be able to see or may not be able to hear use this? So when you bring people in at this design phase or earlier idea phase, be in the business of collecting requirements rather than solutions. So don't say, like, what do you think we should do with this product? Because they don't know your business. Figure out what the requirements are, right? If there's somebody who just has one arm, what is their main requirement? Probably opening the thing with one arm or using the thing with one arm. When the Surface team was working on this really fascinating story, they had maybe 3 years ago. Yeah, it was 3 years ago because it was pre-pandemic. They were running a usability study, and they asked people with disabilities to bring in their laptops into their lab, into their inclusive design lab. And they noticed many people with disabilities had modified their devices. They had drilled holes, put glue dots, put strings up here at the top. They were like, interesting. And they watched how these folks opened the devices, relied on specific keys. They're like, oh, okay, you use this to open the device better, to, have like a sticker on certain keys. Why don't we build a kit for that? So that's how the Surface Adaptive Kit was born. To this day, I use mine. I have a big sticker on my print screen key because I use it all the time. And I'm tired of always looking for it. Remember, I'm dyslexic. So even if I wasn't, always looking for the print screen key is annoying. So it's nice to just know exactly where it is because it's got a big, huge sticker on it. So once you figure out who you're co-creating with, figure out how all of the people with disabilities can experience this, right? Think through, how can a blind person experience this? Just what does that look like? How does a deaf person experience this? How does a limited mobility person experience this? Cognitive considerations. And if you're building like a screen product, think about all text on images, captions on videos, transcripts, recordings, SEO. And if you're writing some sort of a document, think about running like an accessibility checker type thing. Now, what you're doing is figuring out a way that everyone can participate. Okay. This is the third step, is really figuring out, okay, step 1, you've figured out who you're going to co-create with. Step 2, you figured out who are you intentionally including. Okay. So make sure you know exactly who you're intentionally including. Third step is figure out who you're unintentionally excluding. This is where people tend to fall into trouble because they're like, yeah, we are very proactively including these folks in our product development, but who are you not including? The main principle that I keep in mind is do no harm and make sure that everyone has a way to participate. It doesn't need to be the same way. So the way I think about it is a bank. Can everyone get into this bank? Not everyone has to go through the front door where you open. What if there's a side door that's wide and you push a button and it opens? That's also a way to get into the bank. It's not the exact same way, but it's a way. Just make sure that every single person has a way to access your product in some way or another. On the screen is a screenshot from one of our conferences, Microsoft Ignite. You see two hosts speaking. There's captions under them. And to their right is a American Sign Language interpreter. She is interpreting what they're saying for deaf folks. Now, I am not deaf, so I don't use the sign interpreter. That doesn't matter. It's just a way for other people to participate. So not every feature is for everyone, and that is okay. A lot of people get hung up on, oh, but if I put in captions, many people won't use them. That's fine. Make sure there's a way to turn it off. So a thing that companies tend to do is, or organizations, is they have accessibility features or accommodations, but they hide them. People find it very difficult to find things. So if you have captions available for your product, make sure everyone knows they're available. Don't wait for people to ask for an accommodation before making it available. Just put what accommodations are available on your website. Just say, for your job interviews, for everything, just say, here are the accommodations that are available. Just write it down. Put them on by default or make them obvious by default. I see it all the time. Many companies will tell me like, oh yeah, we have all this. I say, really? How come your employees don't know that? They said, I don't know. They've never asked. I said, people with disabilities don't always want to disclose. So make sure it's just available to everyone. And then figure out what your experiment, feedback, iterate loop looks like. You're not always going to have the right answer the first time. And this is why it's important to co-create, right? So sit down with your blind friend, sit down with your deaf friend or your customers and say like, okay, let's try this. Is this working the way we all want it to work? Are you able to do the job, right? And if you're not, then let's figure out why and really debug the situation, right? You're all technical, really smart people. Let's just get creative and make sure you've got like a feedback loop, just like you do with all of your customers. So I'll walk you through an example in Teams. Teams has a way for everyone to participate, okay? For someone with dyslexia, like me, I would use Immersive Reader for the chat. For someone who is deaf or has ADHD, they would want to blur the background so they can focus in on what the speaker's saying. A lot of deaf folks tell me it helps them lip read, not to see anything else in the background. Captions and transcription, also really good for folks who are deaf, but people who speak another language, right? Video recordings, really good for people who are just not there, or they missed a section or they want to catch up later. Many of my blind colleagues will go back and re-listen to video recordings to pick up anything they missed. And then the hands up and all of the emojis are a way for everyone to participate, even if they're not, speaking the meeting. So a big topic I'm focusing on right now is accessibility for developers. I am a developer. I love developers because they legitimately build the world around us. How can we make more accessible tools for developers and citizen developers? Citizen developers meaning like low-code toolset. People come from like a business background. So how can we make more accessible developer tools? Like for Microsoft, it would be Azure, Visual Studio, Power Platform. And what are some other things that we should be building? Because we want more people with disabilities to become developers and citizen developers. Because when you have folks with disabilities on your team, you're going to make better products since they're building for their own lived experience. We all inherently build for our lived experience. It's very human nature. So why don't we have the right people on our team in the first place? That way you're not fixated on like what level of the, ideation phase am I in? Like, yeah, from the beginning, from the ideation phase. So tons and tons of resources out there. Some for developers may not be super relevant for you, but just keep in mind that when you're inclusive, you are more innovative as an organization. This is something we figured out at Microsoft, which is why we're all in on accessibility. We're having a conference that spreads over 2 days that reaches millions of viewers, because we're all in on accessibility. And I hope you are too. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Donna. It was such an inspiring session. So we don't have any questions as such, but I'd like to thank you very much for your time, and thank you so much for this absolutely amazing and inspiring session.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.